whatever time it is across the world. And I'm very appreciative of all of our artists, our poets, and our musicians who are joining us today from across the world. And I can't wait for you to hear their incredible work. And all of this is to really be a celebration of Karam Foundation's work for Syrian refugee youth and Syrian refugee families. And I really appreciate everybody joining us today on your Sunday to spend some time with us at this virtual event at the end of 2021. And I hope that you are all getting ready to celebrate the holidays and welcome in a new year. I know we are all ready for a new year. You know, poetry for Karam, I was just telling the artists that were together with us just before we opened it up to the audience, is that poetry and creativity and innovation are such huge pillars for Karam's work. This is what we really built the foundation on, and it's a different approach to humanitarian aid that is usually, you know, being delivered to refugees or marginalized communities. So I want to give a quick overview about Karam in case you didn't know much about our organization. Karam means generosity in Arabic. I started the foundation in 2007, and since 2011, we've been focused on supporting Syrian families, Syrian refugees, people across really Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and mostly in Turkey. Right now, our work is really based in Turkey, and we do most of our work out of two community centers called Karam House. One is located in Reyhanli, which is in southern Turkey on the Syrian border, and the other one in Istanbul. And the programs that we do are really what we call pathways to leadership. Right now, as you all know, we are over 10 years into the Syrian crisis, and this crisis has affected millions of Syrians across the world in very, very fundamental ways, where many people have lost their homes, their livelihoods. And for us, we're witnessing a lot of youth who have no longer have the abilities or the opportunities to reach their full potential. So what Karam does is that we intervene within our programs, whether it's the Karam Families program, which supports kids coming out of child labor and refugee families and sending them back to school, or innovative education programming, which supports teenage Syrians in the Karam houses to help them build up their skills so that they're ready to go for their futures, or our Karam Scholars, which is our scholarship program for Syrian refugees who are attending higher education. These three programs interconnect together to create pathways to leadership. Right now, Karam's goal is to build 10,000 leaders by 2028. And by leaders, we mean every Syrian that we empower with the tools and the opportunities to be able to stand on their own 2 feet, get a dignified job, as well as higher education, and be able to provide for themselves, their families, and their communities. And we believe that this work will actually create a fundamental change for refugee communities by making sure that these young people are able to reach their full potential, reach their dreams, and understand that being a refugee is just a circumstance of their journeys, and it should not define anybody. So this is the fundamental parts about our work. Community is a huge piece of our work. As you can see today, we build out our virtual communities, our in-person communities, communities of our supporters like all of you and all of the people that are participating in today's event, as well as the refugee communities that we work with. The majority of our team are Syrian refugees themselves, based in both of those locations, in Reyhanli and in Istanbul. And we have a small US team, as you can see here, Rama and Noor are two of them, and Annie. And we mostly were doing here communications, fundraising, as well as program development. So if you have any questions for our team, please put them in the chat. We'd love to connect with you either during the event or after the event and talk with anybody who'd like to know more about our work. Today, it is a fundraising event, and as you know, we're all trying to raise money at the end of the year in the spirit of the holidays and the spirit of the end of the year. We're going to be sharing in the chat the links to donate. It's really exciting that we have an end of year match going on right now. We started it during Giving Tuesday. We unlocked our first match and we completed that, and now we're starting our second match of the end of the year. And so all of the contributions that you're able to give at the for the link will be doubled. Your impact will be doubled today, and it will actually go directly to the programs that I talked about before, which is supporting young Syrian refugees and their families on their journeys to their futures and leadership. And so now I want to move on to sharing something really exciting to start our programming today, which is a debut or premiere of our video, our end of year video, a reflection on 2021 from the students of Karam House themselves, which you'll hear from, and they'll be talking about their hopes for the future. As you all know, and I'm sure that you've lived through this, as well as we have, that 2021 was not an easy year. I think like 2020 was probably a little bit worse, but we thought that 2021 was going to be smoother. And I think it has been very difficult for all of us. For refugees, it has been even more difficult, and for marginalized communities as they've tried to navigate their ways through this pandemic. We're hoping for a much better year ahead and better times ahead. And as you know, the work that we do is so much based is on hope and on building that future potential. And so we're going to share a video that we have not shared with anybody yet, which is a reflection of our students from Karam House telling you about their ideas on hope for the future and what they felt in 2021. Please enjoy.
2021 كانت سنة كلها مرض وأحداث أغلبها سيئة، والأحداث أثرت بكل العالم وفيه، وبسبب المرض صرنا نخاف على الأشخاص اللي بنحبهم أكتر ما نخاف على حالنا، وهذا الشيء أثر بالعالم وأثر بنفسياتنا. بسبب هذا الشيء فقدنا كتير أشخاص بنحبهم، وكمان صار كتير شغلات مثل الفيضانات والزلازل وحريق الأشجار. مع ذلك ما استسلمنا، وبسبب عملنا الجماعي رجعنا الحياة مثل ما كانت تقريبا، وحسنا نفتح المدارس، وإذا ضلينا بهالوضع رح نتغلب على كل المصاعب اللي بنواجهها. بسنة 2021 كنت متأملة فيها خير، بس طلع العكس، زادت الصعوبات وزادت التحديات، وكان لازم نواجهها. كل شيء بنملكه، فقدت أكتر ناس بحبون فقدتهم بسبب كورونا، بس ما رح أقدر أنسى الجانب الإيجابي، واللي هو بسبب الحظر صار فيني أقعد مع أهلي أكتر، صرت أعمل شغلات أنا بحبها، وتعلمت شغلات جديدة، وكنت أحكي مع رفقاتي وأخذ منهم طاقة إيجابية، وهذا الشيء كتير خلاني أتأمل وأتفائل ب2022.
كنت ما بعرف أصنع أشياء من الكرتون مثل المفاصل والألعاب. بعد ما سجلت ببيت كرم تعلمت أصنع كتير شغلات بسبب الآنسة آية والأستاذ محمد، وتعلمت استعمل برنامج الراينو وأصنع مفاصل وأشكال على اللابتوب، وبعد ما أخلص بنقل على آلة الليزر كتر وتساوي لي حقيقي.
من خلال تجربتي لبيت كرم ومنحي الفرصة للتطلع على أمور مشوقة ولأول مرة، أخذت هذه السنة اهتمام من ناحيتي أكثر من أي سنة من قبل، تخصيص جزء أكبر من وقتي بهدف زيادة معرفتي عن أمور أثارت اهتمامي، الاستفادة من فرصة التحاقي ببيت كرم لتكوين علاقات أكثر من حولي، وأخيراً منح نفسي فرصة التعامل مع الصعوبات بأنه ما في شيء مستحيل بهذه الحياة.
وبالأخير بحب لكم إنه لو مرت علينا 2021 صعبة أو سهلة أو قد ما كان فيها صعوبات، ما نستسلم أبداً، ونضل نسعى ورا حلمنا وما نيأس أبداً. وصدقوني إنه كل ما سعينا ورا حلمنا أكتر، كل ما كان نسبة تحقيقه أكبر.
Thank you so much, Lina. Thank you for sharing with us. And thank you for also this amazing video. The kids always inspire all of us. They inspire me personally day to day. So we're happy to share this exclusive video with you all. This is the first time we share it with anybody. Again, thank you so much. Before we begin our evening with poetry and the poets, I have to go over the rules just to make sure we're having a perfect time and a great experience. So I would like to ask you if you can do on the side, the top corner on the right side, you can do a speaker view. This way, whenever the poet is sharing their poetry, you'll see them fully on the screen. Also, please mute yourself unless you are talking, of course. Feel free to use the reactions on the bottom of your screen. You can do clapping, thumbs up to participate and celebrate the poets tonight. We do appreciate if you can turn your camera on so we can all enjoy this evening together. Tonight, it's all about community, so I would love to see your beautiful faces. And finally, please utilize the chat on the bottom of your screen to participate, to share your thoughts about the poems, the poets, the beautiful music, or if you have any questions about Karam and the work that Karam does. And now I am so happy to introduce our very first poet this evening, a very dear friend of mine, Naomi Shihabnai. Naomi Shihabnai is a Palestinian American poet and is the Young People's Poet Laureate, is on the faculty at Texas State University. Her most recent book is Everything Comes Next, Collected and New Poems. Please join me in welcoming Naomi Shihabnai.
Thank you, Noor. It's such an honor to be with you all. Thank you, Karam, for all you do. The video was deeply moving to my heart because I have spent most of my life with young people who are writing, and just seeing them in this posture of hope and welcome to their own words and thoughts is incredibly inspiring to me. So thank you for encouraging that worldwide and helping others feel their writing possibility. One small sack in Syria. The vendor filled it fuller than it needed to be. He wanted to make his shoppers happy. He shook the roasted pistachios, redolent with charcoal and fire, into all corners of the brown paper bag and smiled, folding the edge. He said, "Very good nuts. Long road to Aleppo." He said, "Say hello to Aleppo." I do think Aleppo was one of the most unforgettable cities my husband and I have ever visited in our world travels, and I have felt so saddened that many hard things have happened there since we last were there. The poems I'm reading are all from the same book called The Tiny Journalist. In Northern Ireland, they called it the Troubles. What do we call it? The very endless nightmare? The toothache of tragedy? I call it the life no one would choose. To be always on guard, never secure, jumping when a skillet drops. I watch the babies finger their cups and spoons and think, they don't know yet. They don't know how empty the cup of hope can feel. Here in the land of tea and coffee offered on round trays 1,000,000 times a day, still a thirst so great you could die every night longing for a better life. Thanks to all of you for helping young people have a better life. And thanks to Noor for being one of my favorite people in the world. And that mysterious word, holy. You might as well take a rotten lemon, squeeze it in your hand. Let the juice trickle down your wrist and arm, sharp bite of acidity prickling your scratches and scars, and say, I bow down to you. When the almond tree erupts into blossom without help from any people, I bow down. Here we are in the land of sacred story, chant, shrines, altars and grottos, parables, and soldiers in camouflage are carrying guns. What does that say about holy? How much power it doesn't have? Thou shalt not kill, crumpled under our feet. Whose religion would you follow? And why do they wear camouflage? We can still see them. Who are they hiding from? The guns are bigger than we are. The tanks are bigger than shrines. Tear gas canisters, grenade casings, littering graves of our ancestors in the cemetery. I bow down. You bow to the big shining platter everyone eats off together. Sit in a circle for your holy rice. Speak after me. Holy eggplant, my best angel. Mediterranean blue. If you are the child of a refugee. You do not sleep easily when they are crossing the sea on small rafts and you know they can't swim. My father couldn't swim either. He swam through sorrow, though, and made it to the other side on a ship, pitching his old clothes overboard at landing, then tried to be happy, make a new life. But something inside him was always paddling home, clinging to anything that floated, a story, a food, or face. They are the bravest people on earth right now. Don't dare look down on them. Each mind, a universe swirling as many details as yours, as much love for a humble place. Now the shirt is torn, the sea too wide for comfort, and nowhere to receive a letter for a very long time. And if we can reach out a hand, we better. So thank you, Karam Foundation, for all you reach out to so many people. And I'll close with these two short poems. Stun. Who's remembering Yemen had the most amazing architecture in the world? Yemenis remember. No one mentions this on the news. Bomb explodes, bus of school children, their glory also unmentioned. Sometimes I just call out to Dubai. Dubai, I say, if you can build new buildings like that, can't you help us? We stood in the parking lot of the hospital after Daddy died. I couldn't remember how to open a car door. All I can do. And this has a quote from George Rishmawi in Aramco World magazine. It was actually a story about hiking in Palestine. And I think it would apply to Syria also. We have such a beautiful country, but it's not been utilized enough before for this kind of tourism. One hand out against the earth, one hand up against the sky. Somehow I walk between them. They carry messages through my body on a cord stretched between far places. What could have been, what might be. Some days it's all I can do to stand still and answer you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Naomi. Thank you for these wonderful poems and really inspiring lines. So happy to have you here. Thank you. Our next poet is joining us live from Gaza, Palestine. Thank you so much for being up so late for us. Musab Abu Tawha is a Palestinian poet, fiction writer, and essayist from Gaza. He's the founder of the Edward Said Public Library in Gaza, and in 2019-2020 was a visiting poet and scholar at Harvard University. Musab is the author of Things You May Find Hidden in My Ear, Poems from Gaza, forthcoming from City Lights Books in April 2022. Please help me welcome Musab.
Thank you, Noor, for the introduction. Thanks to Karam and all the work that you are doing. And thank you, Naomi, very much for being here. I'm very excited and honored to be one of the poets reading tonight. I'm going to read 5 short poems for this evening. The first one is, What is Home? What is home? It is the shade of trees on my way to school before they were uprooted. It is my grandparents' black and white wedding photo before the walls crumbled. It is my uncle's prayer rug where dozens of ants slept on wintry nights before it was looted and put in a museum. It is the oven my mother used to bake bread and roasted chicken before a bomb reduced our house to ashes. It is the cafe where I watched football matches and my child stops me. Can a four-letter word hold all of these? On a starless night. On a starless night, I toss and turn. The earth shakes and I fall out of bed. I look out my window. The house next door no longer stands. It's lying like an old carpet on the floor of the earth, trampled by missiles, fat slippers flying off legless feet. I never knew my neighbors still had that small TV, that the old painting still hung on their walls, that their cat had kittens. Gun with the gunpowder. Even if the land is barren, it doesn't mean no trees grew before. If flowers do not blossom, the spring never fails to come. Our houses towered as high as our cypress trees. We lit our street lamps with olive oil. Our houses no longer stand. Gun with the gunpowder, the wind of death, planted beneath the warm soil. The children's footsteps, the steam from grandmother's teacup, the smoke from grandfather's cigarette, flew into the black clouds, never looking back. The noise ahead pulled them by the neck. You can ask the sun. She saw everything. She wished she could stop the actors on the stage, but her neck was tied to a rope. And the villains, they performed their role even after the play was over. And I have nothing. I only write what I can hear of the echo of that noise, while my neck stretches from time to time toward our distant houses, hopeful I will be watching their seeds when they sprout. Forever homeless. Before my long travel, I pack my suitcases, stuff them with some sand from our land, some scent from my mother's kitchen, and sounds of birds in the morning. And in my pockets, I put the 4 directions. My hands are the compass. At the airport, I beg the officer not to open the suitcases and, if needed, to touch my clothes gently. Otherwise, I would be standing on nothing, surrounded by nothing, see nothing. I would be weightless and forever homeless. Last one, the wall and the clock. There is always that clock on the wall. Every time I step into my room, I feel curious, want to take it down, see what's behind its face. I want to see how old it has become. My father bought it when I was a child. I want to count its teeth to know its age. But the clock doesn't get old. The numbers never change. Only I do. And then there is the rocking chair, and I am sitting in it, just me in the room, rocking back and forth, doing nothing but imagining the wall, shouting to the clock, stop ticking. You are hurting my ears. I look at the cracks in the paint on the wall. It's more than just the sound of the clock. Shrapnel holes stare at me whenever I enter the room. The clock wasn't harmed in that attack. I hurry to pull the batteries out of the clock. I whisper to it, I'll take you to the doctor, even though it's not only you who is sick. The paint stops peeling. I take the clock to the clockmaker, ask him to make it soundless. He removes the clock's vocal cords, patches its mouth shut, I didn't see the teeth. I didn't ask the doctor. At home, I put the batteries back. The clock works silently. It adds to the silence in the room. I settle back into my chair, read some poems aloud to break off the threads of silence that dangle from the ceiling. A cold night breeze seeps through the holes in the wall. I tear out some pages I finished reading, stuff them into the small, shapeless, non-closable windows. I am 2 hours late for work the next day. The clock wasn't set right after its treatment. Surely it would have alerted me if it were capable of speech. Number 4 falls from the clock's face when I try to adjust the time, as if a front tooth has fallen out. 4 days later, my brother Hudayfa passes away. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wow, I was definitely lost in your words and lines in the most beautiful way. Thank you so much, Musab, for being here and for these beautiful poems and beautiful words. Before I introduce our next poet, I want to remind you all that all the donations made during tonight's event will be matched, doubling their impact. Karam does the necessary work of empowering Syrian youth on their path to leadership. So join our mission and get your donation matched through the link in the chat that the wonderful Annie and Rose are sharing. And we thank you all for your donations. Our next poet is the amazing Zayn Azzam. Zayn is a Palestinian American poet, editor, and a community activist. She serves as a mentor for We Are Not Numbers, a writing program for youth in Gaza. Her latest publication is her chapbook, Baina Baina in Between, which was published in 2021. Please help me welcome Zainab.
Thank you so much, Noor. I'm delighted to be part of this reading. I appreciate the work of the Karam Foundation. It's vital. And really thank you to Noor and to Rama for organizing this event. And I'm especially honored to share this platform with such wonderful poets, all of whom I've admired for many, many years. I've chosen poems about immigrants and refugees to read today. I just want to note, for those of you who don't know me, I'm the child of Palestinian refugees. They fled Palestine in 1948 and moved to Syria, actually, to Homs. And in fact, several years later, I was born in Homs. I have a real soft spot and very in my heart for Syria. So we immigrated to the United States when I was 10 years old. And I wanted to share this poem about our early days. It's called Immigrant. I grew up eating cheese with bitter olives, sesame and thyme-infused olive oil on warm bread. Names in my family all meant something, like lifelong challenges. Bahij, splendid. Fatih, victorious. Samih, forgiving. In my childhood books, words flowed from right to left. Direction didn't matter then. At 10, we traveled east to west against time. I gained 7 hours of youth, lost my compass. In New York, no sea to swallow the sun each day. Foods were sweet in America. People spoke as fast as they walked. Everything was large, washing machines, supermarkets, even bananas and red grapes. We settled in this vast, cold place with neither boots nor a sense of how to be warm. Snowfalls were beautiful and cruel. The freezing air slapped our faces each morning. Inside, there was the smell of garlic and onions on the stove, loud talking over the phone with relatives overseas. My family inhaled and exhaled politics like cigarettes all the time. We blamed the British, the Americans, Zionists, Arab leaders, the Americans, communists, or a history that was simply unkind. The TV in the background reported news in a language we spoke, but did not really understand. All this over a good meal, always, as if the hunger was in our bellies and not in our hearts. As an immigrant to the United States, I've often felt like I live in two cultures and two languages. And although I used to view them as sort of a conflicting thing, I learned eventually that my experience as an American and as an Arab, and especially as a Palestinian American, have been profoundly enriching to my values and to my worldview. And I continue to wonder how one transmits a cultural identity to our children at the next generation. I ask myself, have I given my children a good understanding of the culture that I grew up in? And how successful have I been? What will my grandchildren know and appreciate about our heritage and our family story? So this poem is called A Language for Colors. Asfar, she would say, pointing at a yellow tulip. And the color of grass? Akhdar. My young daughter had mastered not only the colors, but also the throaty KH, two letters in English that equal one in Arabic. I would tell her it's the same sound as in khamse, khubz, sabanich, 5, bread, spinach, and my favorite name, Khalid, immortal. I once confessed to a friend wistfully that I would not name my son Khalid because Americans couldn't pronounce it. Now I wonder about such wisdom. Even my 8-year-old could constrict her throat muscles the right way to say Khalid, immortal like an ancient olive tree, a flame that never abates, a mother's love. This spring, I saw a patch of double hybrid tulips, asfar tinged with akhdar, and thought of my daughter's satisfied grin at learning those words thousands of miles away from her grandparents' home in Palestine. Here we are, hybrid Americans, living between two languages and speaking in colors, splendid flowers in a distant field. As you know, there are over 80 million refugees and internally displaced people in the world. Many of them navigate incredibly dangerous border areas and bodies of water to flee their homes for political or economic reasons or natural disasters or environmental pressures. Here's a poem that explores the experience of a refugee mother and young daughter waiting to get on a boat. The title is A Grammar for Fleeing. Hudud, the word for border, looms in her mind's vocabulary like a passive voice, a noun for longing. Maybe the undulating line runs in water or in sand, splays on the imagined cover of a passport, map for a new home. She has vowed to cross it, daughter on her hip, two legs doggedly moving apace, two legs suspended, bare. She plans to learn the other side like a foreign language. First the stones as single utterances, then the houses and hills, sentences. The scenes will warm in the light of the sun. Now it is dark, and the little girl is ensconced in her arms, eyes closed, but a lulling breeze could spell betrayal if they aren't careful. She reaches between her breasts for the pendant inscribed with amal, hope, rubs it like a magic lamp. The din of conversation starts to rise as light gathers at the horizon, where the singular message of East, of true East, has grounded her since childhood. Lay low, look west, wait for the boat. She understands the grammar for fleeing, unspoken rules that decide how the journey will end. When words like harb, war, and jua, hunger, might ebb and not flow. Her toddler wakes, asking for water, as the sea responds with crashing waves. Before I read my last poem, I wanted to say something about the jacket that I'm wearing. A friend bought it in the northern Sinai area and gave it to me as a gift. And all this time, I thought the embroidery was Palestinian, but recently I met an expert who told me that this jacket was cut from a dress that came from the Idlib area in northwestern Syria, early in the 20th century. As you know, Idlib has been the site of so much fierce fighting, and many internally displaced people live there. So I decided to wear this beautiful jacket today in solidarity with all the beautiful Syrian people. A Syrian refugee speaks. To you, I am the story on the evening news. My charcoal mane braids mystery with fear. My words push eyes to narrow, backs to rise. Others dole out largesse at borders to me, a wingless bird to feed. You note my brown skin, imagine my kin as the reclining odalisks in Delacroix's painting, the boy charming a snake in Jerome's. My life is a tale of once upon a time, 1,001 ruses, myth and mirror fused by the heat of the hell of war. To me, I am the history book and the poem, the suckling and the breast, the amulet locating paradise, Al-Jannah. It lies at the feet of mothers. Now our country is an empty womb, tales of fleeing tattooed in our skin, white flags carried out of houses, buried in rubble. Each time I beseech the crescent moon for a blessed month, I seek signs of stone houses and olive trees left behind. I wait for the morning that will bring back mother's milk, a scent of jasmine, the dignity of home. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zainab, for these beautiful poems. And this is a very beautiful jacket. I really love the jacket. It caught my attention. And I love the story behind it because you know how Palestinians and Syrians have always been brothers and sisters standing next to each other and supporting each other. So thank you for this wonderful story as well. Our next poet is the amazing Hayyan Sharara. Hayyan Sharara is a poet, children's book author, essayist, and an editor. His honors include a literature fellowship from the National Endowment for the Arts, the Lucille Joy Prize in Poetry from the University of Houston and Creative Writing Program, among others. He is currently teaching at the University of Houston. Please help me welcome Hayyan Sharara.
Thank you, Noor, and it's good to see those of you who I can see, and it's good to have those of you who I can't see here with us. I'm going to read just two poems today, and they're both from my forthcoming book called, the title of the book is These Trees, Those Leaves, This Flower, That Fruit. And this first poem is called Bees, Honeycombs, Honey. Bees, thousands and thousands surviving in a hive under the soffit. Bees, honeycombs, and honey, and dampness and old wood sticky in the sunlight, and the beekeeper's hand carefully and slowly vacuuming and taking, the bees tumbling gently into the makeshift hive, honeybees and honeycombs and honey glistening, honey, the only food that will not spoil, honey pulled from the pyramids, still sticky and sweet thousands of years later. I may not believe, but I want to. And the bees before my eyes are now disappearing. Bees God in the Quran inspired to build homes in mountains and trees. Bees that built homes in the trees near the grave in Detroit, and the bees in Jerusalem's graves. Bees in every city and in every age. Bees, honey, and honeycombs through disaster after disaster. Bees building and scouting and dancing. Bees mating, protecting, and attacking. The bees are now disappearing and dying, and the bees the beekeeper cannot save are dying but still guarding the empty hive, butting their heads against the children who will grow into men and women and build homes, now dipping fingers into honey darkening on the ground. They are dying. The hive is gone. The queen is gone. Thousands and thousands gone. But the bees will come back, and the hive will come back, if not here, then elsewhere. And there will be more bees making more honeycombs, more honey, and more bees. And one day all the bees will be gone, gone and gone. Honeycombs and houses gone, and trees gone. Oak, elm, birch gone. All trees, flowers gone. And birds, leaves, branches, cicadas and crickets, grasshoppers, ants, worms gone. And cities and rivers, big cities, small cities, big rivers, small rivers, gardens and homes, and homes. The bees will be gone, and only their honey will survive, and we will not be around to taste it. Maybe that poem suggested, but I don't know. I've lost some of my optimism over the years. I try to remain somewhat optimistic, but it's difficult. But I think moments like these, when I see people who I do trust, and people that I know who make this world a better place, it sometimes alleviates some of that pessimism. But anyhow, so I would just like to read one more poem, and it's a poem I wrote about 6 years ago, but one that I've been thinking about for about, I don't know, 20 some years now. It's called Elegy with Apples, Pomegranates, Bees, Butterflies, Thorn Bushes, Oak, Pine, Warblers, Crows, Ants, and Worms. The trees alongside the fence bear fruit, the limbs and leaves, speeches to you and me, promising to give the world back to itself. The apple apologizes for those whose hearts bear too much zest for heaven, the pomegranate for the change that did not come soon enough. Every seed a heart, every heart a minefield, and the bees and butterflies swarm the flowers on its grave. The thorn bushes instruct us to tell our sons and daughters who carry sticks and stones to mend their ways. The oak tree says to eat only fruits and vegetables. The pine says to eat all the stirring things. My neighbor left long ago and did not hear any of this. In a big country, the leader warns the leader of a small country, there must be change or else. Birds are the same way, coming and going, wobbling thin branches. The warblers express pain, the crows regret. Or is it the other way around? The mantra today is the same as yesterday. We must become different. The plants must, the animals, and the ants and worms, just like the car makers, the soap makers before them, and the manufacturers of rubber and the sellers of tea, tobacco, and salt. Such an ancient habit, making ourselves new. My neighbor looks like my mother, who left a long time ago and did not hear any of this. Just for a minute, give her back to me before she died, kneeling in the dirt under the sun, calling me darling in Arabic, which no one has since. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Hayan. Thank you for being with us and for sharing your poems. These are really great. We really appreciate you being here. I also do love the Christmas tree behind you. It gives us a sense of a Christmas. Thank you again. I just want to give you all an update that I just got from our philanthropy team on our end of year campaign. We just raised tonight $680. That means we are about $1,260 away from unlocking another match to double our funding. I know we can make it all happen here together. So please use the links in the chat to give what you can to support and empower Syrian refugees. Any dollar counts, from $1 to 100 to whatever you can give. I'm sure those Syrian youth appreciate it. And it goes towards their future and becoming the future leaders that we hope they do. Up next, we have the poet and author Lahab El-Jundi, who grew up in Damascus, Syria. He attended the University of Texas in Austin and graduated with a degree in electrical engineering. Not long after graduation, he discovered his passion for writing. His new poetry collection titled This Is It is forthcoming from Kelsey Book in early 2022. We also have accompanying him Richard Russell, which Lahab will be introducing to all of us. Please help me welcome Lahab El-Jundi.
Thank you very much. I first want to echo what Hayan said about sometimes either losing hope or not being sure that we can go much further with the positive attitude that we have. But events like today and listening to poets such as the wonderful poets we have on today just reignites the spark. And of course, we're always looking for ways to reignite the spark and move on and hopefully help others do the same thing. Just one quick comment. My book, This Is It, was supposed to be forthcoming next year, but through some series of events, it's out already from Kelsey Books, and this is the first reading actually I'm doing after the release of the book, and I'm going to be reading 4 short poems from the book. Accompanying me will be my good friend Richard Russell. He used to live in San Antonio, and we did some performances together when he was here. But since then, he chose to move to Washington State, and I'm very jealous of the hikes and the scenery and the beautiful things he shared with me and with his followers on Facebook. Richard is a disciple of the world-renowned Sarod master Ali Akbar Khan. He's trained in the instrument and vocal styles of Indian classical music. He is also a prolific composer and recording artist. And I must add that from the first time I heard him play the sarod, I fell in love with that instrument. So I'm sure you all will feel similarly. We will start with a poem called Out of the Mist. And Richard, I don't know if you want to say anything before you start playing. Please feel free to do so.
Just that it's an honor to be here with all these great poets, and I always have a fondness for poetry, and I love what Karam is doing. That's a great cause, so I'm glad to contribute.
Great. Out of the mist of a million probable worlds, out of the dizziness of a long dream, like a bee that found its nectar in a field of stones, or a poet who heard his heart's music amid cries of war. The precision was that of divine intervention, art born of deeper beauty. And just like birds find home after a long winter, and a smile finds its way to a melancholy face, I found you. The next poem is called Arabiya. I wrote this poem after a trip to Petra, Jordan, and was inspired by a young Bedouin lady. I saw her, I happened to be standing on a hilltop, and she was in a valley below, sitting on a big boulder. She was wearing the traditional Arabic like headscarf, the hair covering, and the galabiya, the long dress. But she also had a very colorful baseball cap on. And I could tell from the distance, from looking up there, that she also was wearing one of those Converse tennis shoes. So anyway, just the whole scene inspired this poem, Arabiya. Her ancestors carved an elegant city in desert mountains, built a splendid empire. Her beauty legendary, a glimpse into her eyes is known to rouse the flames of passion. Like all women around the world, her wings were clipped. Creeds and traditions caged her. She straddles past and future, chasm between them 1,000 years wide. One side, safe and familiar, the other, enticing and perplexing. The internet, a dazzling portal. Women seem to have embarked on freedoms she could only imagine. Choices include triviality. Women seem to have embarked on freedoms she could only imagine. Choices include triviality. She does not know how urgently This aching world needs her. How desperate its weight. Sometimes all it takes is one step to cross 1,000 years. Next poem is titled Danger Zone. And we definitely have plenty of danger zones around the world. In some countries around this 21st century world, people still find it necessary to revolt against oppression, to risk everything for freedom, for democracy. It takes guts to rise up against a dictator willing to kill you. It takes guts to rise up against a dictator willing to kill you. In other places, people take democracy for granted. Consider freedom a birthright. But some grow tired of not always getting their way. They start thinking they would be better off with a leader for life who tells them exactly what they want to hear. I'm always telling Richard whenever we have a performance together, play more, play more. He says, you're the poet, you should have a, like, play more. You get one last chance to play more, Richard. The last one is the title poem from the book, This Is It. This pelican with its wings spread wide, its legs tucked under its body, riding the currents, gliding on grace, is it. This heart, wrapping itself with my breath, leaping up with every exhale, taking in the immensity before me, feeling the pulse that gives it pulse, is it. This heart wrapping itself with my breath, leaping up with every exhale, taking in the immensity before me, feeling the pulse that gives it pulse, is it. Stop time right now. Throw all clocks in the sea. Watch barnacles build homes on their rusty hands. Make underwater love across their silent digits. Season of all seasons is upon us. This is it. Thank you all for allowing us the privilege to read and play for you. I'm Richard, always grateful.
Thank you so much, Richard and Lahab. I definitely want to say, please, one more from both of you. I could sit here for hours and listen to both of you. I was definitely transferred home, so thank you for that. My heart is really full, so I really appreciate you both. Before I give another update of our fundraising tonight, besides being a storyteller at Karam Foundation, I'm also a poet. So I would like to share 2 poems with you all. The first poem is called What If I Was Never Here? أنا مغتربة. I am displaced. If you search for me in history books, my name would be imperceptible. The historian knew I was here. Here I was when he said to me, once you leave the land leaves you. Damascus soil no longer will recognize my footprints. An outlander, it would say, as if I wasn't given birth to 20 minutes from the heart of the city, and lived and loved and loved and lived for 21 years. Once you leave, you are displaced, misplaced. ابحث عني. What brought me here? Who am I? Where do I belong? I ask myself every morning as I brush my brown locks and blink with eyes big, an inheritance of Syrian ancestors. My blood is Damascene, but my body is lost. Take me again and displace me in the place I was found. Lose me between jasmine-scented petals on a hot summer day. I see July in Damascus, a sun so high I cannot reach. Hot sellers squatting outside of their shops, praying for a cool breeze, Ya Allah Shushob, and someone to bargain. Salam to the passerby, Tfaddal. They invite you for a cup of tea boiled with sugar to give it the sweetness of the city. Ahla wa sahla. Tfaddal habibi. كيف فينا نخدمك؟ شرفتنا. The second poem I want to read to you all is very, very new. It's not done, but I really wanted to share with all of you here tonight. It's called I Heal. My story is not for sale. I know I will never survive if I never secretly weep. You see me, but the world has swallowed me whole. Is that too angry? I might seem tireless and mute. I want you to understand I want to surrender. I am tired internally. I forgot my mother's face and she's still alive. The lines on her face persist. How can I know a stranger if I don't tell them my name, my pain, why I worry? I pick up sharp edges of ripped memories. I live in the dark valleys where rivers run red. I cannot heal her cold hands shivering. I am the girl you fixed her broken English, now correcting you. Thank you so much for everybody who was here tonight. Please support those poets as well by purchasing their old books, their new books. They're amazing writers, as you can see. Also, thank you for everybody who donated tonight. So far, we raised $1,099 tonight. Thank you so much for everybody who donated. We're only $751 from unlocking another $50,000 that will go towards Syrian refugees. Our end of year campaign does not end tonight. Please share the links with your friends, your family, your community. I really appreciate everybody who joined us tonight. Thank you for all the poets. I want to thank Lina, the CEO and the founder at Karam Foundation. I want to thank the team, Rama, Annie, Rose. All of you have been great tonight. And again, thank you. We will be listening to Aboud's music as we exit. Feel free to remain a few more minutes or exit. But I want to say thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you everyone for being with us today.
كمان من فضلك كمان. الله يسلم ذياتك.
I do agree. Say more, please.
محترم.
ان شاء الله المره الجايه ان شاء الله اكيد.
الله يعطيك العافيه ما شاء الله.
كثير عبود.
يسلموا هالانامل.
وعلى خير تسلموا شكرا.
الله يسلمك الله يسلمك الله يعطيك العافيه.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Lina. Thank you. No. Thank you, Rama. Everybody, thank you, Annie.
Thank you,
everyone.
Okay, we are the last ones. Okay.
Enjoy your Sunday, everyone. Thank you for being with us.
Bye.
Have a
Bye.
wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you. You did a good job, Noor. Very good job.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh,
All right. Bye, everyone.
bye.
Bye.